Welcome, everybody, to this unique and unusual webinar that Oxana is presenting for us today.
So good time of the day wherever you are. Okay, I'll do my best to make sure that my presentation is clear to everybody. I highly recommended to watch Signs of Spiritual Awakening webinar that we did a while ago, which if you haven't seen, you can rewatch again because it kind of leads to today's program. Energy reading and the mind mirror. It's all about perspective. So this program I've been brewing for a while. Before you know what I'm going to say, you probably would like to know about me if you meet me for the first time. So my name is Oxana and I live in Byron Bay hinterland in New South Wales in Australia. I am certified mind mirror practitioner and trainer. I started somewhere in 2015 with Judith, and I learned about the work of Anna Weiss long time ago in 2005. And it sent me on a big journey of my own inner self-exploration, and it kind of ignited my interest in meditation and spiritual work. And honestly, my whole life I've been interested in all kind of paranormal or behind the veil events, or how does it all work? Why do we have to die? Are we eternal? I loved books about life after death. I was interested even in calling spirits with my girlfriends. I remember at the age of 6, we were trying to do that. So we were doing all kinds of stuff very early. And later in life, after doing serious business work in corporate world, I decided to switch my attention to psychology. And of course, I needed deepest psychology. So I went to the Institute of Psychoanalysis and I did a proper degree in traditional psychology, and then my attention was diverted to transpersonal psychology, which you might call spiritual psychology. So here I am now today with you, and before we go, I just wanted to say that the main concept, I guess, for today's program is what I put on my website. Learning to navigate brainwaves is like adding extra lenses of your perception, taking you beyond your analytical mind into the depth of your subconscious, all the way to cosmic consciousness. Basically, you know all of this if you're already with Judith or studied with Judith or come across Mind Mirror at some stage in some way, but that's the best way, just to look at what we are normally looking at, slightly different perspective. And that's what it's going to be about today. And of course, when you expand your perspective, and that's my biggest reward in working with people with the mind mirror, is to see how you're awakening to the power of who you truly are. I decided to be creative today. So creative implies distorting or kind of bending the norm. So my presentation will be quite eclectic, collecting pieces and bits from the areas of interest from my whole life. And I leave it up to you to put it all together. So don't be surprised. You probably will, maybe you'll learn something new. Maybe you'll just be invited to look at the things you already know from a different perspective. So that's what it's all about. I invite you to look beyond the words and remember that words, they're more just like pointers, because words, they're just names or labels, but we all know that we all invest different meaning in words. So I'll make sure that I'm using as many words as possible, trying to kind of to draw the picture of what I mean beyond words. And when we talk about energy reading, we mainly imply tuning. So I'm already inviting you not to get trapped, or attached to words too much. Rather try to listen, not with your mind, more with your heart, and try to sense or tune into where I'm pointing at. What am I trying to convey? Again, many words will be necessary to point at the truth, because since it's kind of multidimensional, so there are many facets, so many aspects of it. And when you need to highlight it, you'll have to use many words. You'll use words as symbols, and you'll use metaphors. And even the picture that I picked for today's program is the picture of eclipse. I think it's it's kind of an eye in itself. It looks like an eye. And then at the same time, we know that behind the moon, there is the sun. We all know it's out there, it's available. So just don't be trapped in an illusion that we are separate. My other challenge is talking about intangible, subtle things is quite difficult. I can compare it with like trying to see in the dark room. So don't be scared, be patient, relax, and let your eyes adjust. I think similar principles apply when you're trying to tune into energy reading. You kind of might think, no, I can't see it. It's scary. Who knows what's there? But really, it's like seeing in the dark room. Just relax and adjust your eyes. And then, as you know, with time, you start seeing the shades and then contours of things. And then if you touch them, you'll clearly start getting the grasp of what it is out there. Again, I'm feeling a bit anxious because I never ever opened up my intuitive kitchen of what's happening inside of me that far before. The next one, all intangible processes will have their analogs in the material world, and later you'll understand why. So I believe that everything is connected. So very often when we deal with subtle realms, we're kind of puzzled because we can't quite see the feeling, how to say it, it's evasive, or it's running away. It's like catching a falling star. And we have to remember that the same principles apply, and we'll eventually be able to trace what we see in material world and what we are trying to get hold of, to fix, to correct, to heal in non-material world. So same principles apply. And again, later on, I'll try to give as many examples as possible and don't sound as abstract or crazy like many other people trying to talk about subtle realms. So I invite you to play, stretch, and tune. First of all, perspective. How do we perceive this world? What's real? What do I mean by perspective? Everybody knows that what we perceive is actually quite limited. At least if we take as an example the electromagnetic wave spectrum, it shows how limited our visible spectrum is. And I used it as just one example for us to remember that normally, being physical beings, being born on earth in physical bodies, we think reality is something that we can perceive with our five senses. And I think it's a good illustration to remember that we have to look beyond. Really, if we can't see beyond, it doesn't mean there is nothing out there. It's simply we can't see it. So I invite you to remember look beyond using your sixth sense. I always like to give this example as well. So I invite you to look at this beautiful landscape. If your sight can only reach the end of the street, does it really mean that this is the edge of the world? This is the end and there is nothing beyond that? Definitely not. There is the whole bigger world beyond of what we can see. This is another example. So look how we see things. Just think of it as a photograph displaying things. We normally see things as flat. Just photograph is a good representation of that. On the other senses and play of light, kind of our special vision allows us to remember this is actually dimensional or spatial, and say what we currently see on the picture looks like flat on the picture, but we know it's spacious. It's not a circle, it's a sphere. It's in 3D. So takeaway for us is if we can see two-dimensional world and kind of imply, remember, fill in the gaps or spaces with our mind and with our eyes, and it's making it 3D. Most likely there are even more dimensions than our physical eyes cannot see. This may be a bit silly example, but nevertheless. So look at this wardrobe and imagine you hit the back of it. You might think, oh, this is the wall, or this is some block. But then if you approach it from the front, you'll see, oh, there are the doors. Oh, you open the doors, this is actually storage place. So really remember that the angle that we are looking at is important. And I can give you a little hint here how I understand it. Your attitude or your outlook, your opinion or your prejudice, they all can be called the angles of how we are looking at things. I'm just trying again to apply rules or principles from the material world to non-material to make it clearer and easier for us to grasp and understand. Here is another example. Look at the window, and we all remember how poor fly can kill itself because it simply is not able to see that part of the window might be open. Isn't it a great metaphor for the situations where we can't find the exit? I always thought, isn't it obvious that you need kind of to step back, to zoom out, so you can increase the perspective, so you can see that there is open part of the window, there is an exit from your difficult situation, and you get out. And then this is my own invention. I'm not sure whether I read about it somewhere or it just came to me one day. I absolutely like the metaphor of multifaceted glass. I'm not sure how much, or if you ever have come across such a glass, but they're very, very popular in Russia. And that's where I'm originally from. So just look at this glass and imagine it standing flat in front of you. There is only limited number of facets that we can see at a single time, unless we change our angle or point of view or perspective. An example, let's think of God. And by God, I imply not the one that is implied by religion, but a broader sense of God as a creator, love, light, beauty. And so, say, the facets that we can see on the front will indicate that. But on the other side, there may be all other aspects like wisdom, benevolence, power, and much more. So what's really important here and take away for us is the truth is what's inside. It's not the face that we can see, it's what's hiding inside, it's the content. So be open to look at as many dimensions or aspects as possible. Look at the core of it. A hint, how to apply it in our everyday life. Stay open-minded, because other people's opinions very often, they just trying to help you to see the content, to see the truth beyond the form, beyond the limited aspects of your understanding. Appreciate, do not fight with it. And I called this whole thing the philosophy of the multifaceted glass, because I absolutely loved the metaphor or how it shows things. And it also shows that glass is just a form, it's a shape, it's a container, but really it's more about the function or the essence of what's inside of it. And here I'm sure maybe some of you come across this beautiful parable, the blind man and an elephant. It's very much resonates with the previous example of the glass, where blind men were asked to test what kind of strange animal elephant is. Since they all blind, they all came to touch and inspect this animal. So one person who touched the trunk said, "This being is like a thick snake." For another one, whose hand reached its ear, it seemed like a kind of fan. And for another person whose hand was upon its leg, said, "The elephant is a pillar like a tree trunk." The blind man who placed his hand upon the side said, "The elephant is a wall." Another who felt its tail decided it as a rope. The last felt its trunk, stating the elephant is that which is hard, smooth, and like a spear. So the takeaway for us is one subjective experience can be true, but such experience is inherently limited by its failure to account for other truths or a totality of truth. And here comes my cards or readings. As I promised in my announcement of today's program, that I'll try to explain how I see words. So miracle to me will be something that goes beyond our current perspective, something that we currently are unable to perceive and understand. And I invite you to ask yourself a question. What would it be like to be able to see this world without any prejudice, without any limit, multidimensionally, from all the angles, from above and below, from the deepest perspective inside and from highest outside, and even beyond time? How often do we look at our life situations like this? I'd like you to ponder a little bit on this question, but really, even if you remember my multifaceted glass, once again in your mind, try to play this exercise to remember, because here I think it's important to slow down. If you were able to look at it from all angles at the same time, from the top, from the bottom, left, right, back, front, all angles, 360 degrees, from inside, outside. And if we talk about life situations or other people, can we look at it without prejudice, even beyond time, not judging where people are, what they're experiencing? They're just on their growth, just like kids grow, and we never judge kids for not being able to walk on some stage or not being able to talk at some stage. It's just the stage where they are, and this is normal. Okay, here we go. The next one, energy. What do I mean by energy? I should probably say here what properties of energy or how I relate it to perspective and to the mind mirror. I'll mention and cover all of this and why I think it is important to be energy literate these days. If I think about energy, the first thing that comes to me, it's behind everything. It weaves material world, guided by high order of creation. By energy here, I may equally think of spirit or consciousness or light. It's something that permeates and creates this world. Flower of life that you can see on the screen is an ancient symbol of this energy blueprint or energy creation matrix, known for many. And basically, the energy is one that will connect unmanifested world with manifested, invisible with visible, non-material with material. So the same traces, same principles will apply, and I'll talk about it later. Takeaway for this slide is the world is, when we talk about energy, no longer about separate forms or objects. It is about all interconnecting energy. And really, if you look deeper at it, you'll understand we are much, much more interconnected than we think. And just think here about animal world. Unlike most of humans, they seem somehow to know by default what to do at any moment in their lives. And we don't. Very often we are lost. Very often we think we know what to do, but we are not really tuned. We are not really in line with this bigger energy network, with this bigger picture. Obviously, shamans know all of it. For them, it would be spiritual network, or however else you may call it. In Vedas, they would call it consciousness. In physics, they may call it light. So it's that which interconnects and embraces all of us and helps to manifest. Energetically, we are connected, and giving more examples to make it more tangible to you. I'm here in Australia. My mother and my sister, my bigger family, live still in Russia. And you will be surprised how often I can sense what they are feeling, or we basically feel the same. We often even get flus at the same time. We get sick at the same time. We have uplifting moods and low moods at the same time. And it's amazing how just by thinking about, say, my mother, I very often can start sensing what she's feeling in the moment. So basically, I'll very often I may confuse it with my own mood or my own feeling. So it's very difficult to trace here who starts it, who is the chicken and who is the egg in this situation. But what I'm trying to say, with everybody that we know, we established some kind of deeper connection. I feel it. There is like energy network of people connected, and there is an energy flowing in both directions. We may not be fully aware of it, but we kind of activate it or connect with it more when we start thinking of it. Inside the family, within your genetic line, it's a very, very strong energetic flow and connection in both directions, whether we want it or not, or even if we don't communicate literally in material world, we don't pick the phone, we don't use Skype or Zoom, we still have these energy connections. So the clearer the connections are with all your networks, with the people you relate to, the easier or more uplifting your network is. Anyway, I'm not going to divert too far from here. I think I gave enough examples to understand what I mean. Here I will divert a little bit away, but I think it's worth mentioning, and please don't judge me. I don't want to be overly scientific here. Certain things really a materialistically oriented scientist would consider pure speculation. But when we talk about the higher order of creation, so as I mentioned, energy is behind and it's creating or manifesting material, physical world that we know and can perceive according to certain order, according to certain principles. And sacred geometry is a living proof of this high order of creation or high principles. For example, Platonic solids are building blocks or energy blueprints of material world. You may look at them indirectly, so to say, and associate all of them with the different primary elements: fire, air, earth, water, ether. Look at Chinese teachings. You may think these are primary elements, or you may think they are shapes or patterns, or you may think there are certain frequencies, that elementary frequencies out of which the whole world is made of. And at some point when I was working in the area or related to sacred geometry, I even heard someone saying that if we look at a chemical table of elements known to everyone, in the name of Mendeleev, I'm not sure how good you are at chemistry, but the structure of molecules eventually will be made of the same Platonic solids or replicate the basic shapes, making more and more complex molecules, just being the permutation and combination of these shapes. So really, we have to remember it's in some way they literally work as building blocks for the material world. So for us, what I want to take away, don't overload with yourself with details or try to remember. I just want to invite you maybe to explore, if you are interested, the field of sacred geometry. For us, the takeaways, it's all about patterns, because they are sacred geometrical patterns or vibrational frequencies, right? And frequency here, let's think if the energy is within this world and it's following a certain pattern. So to cover the pattern once, it will be one cycle, right? So it will hold a certain frequency. And I have a shape here with me that I want to maybe show you, just to show you how it spins and how it weaves. It may give you an idea. It looks geometric, but it's actually, when it's moving, you'll see it more like a flower of life. So just a little trick for you here. And on a personal level, how we can use it. I found that same pattern or underlying frequency will manifest itself on different levels. It's your state of mind, how you feel in general, your health, your business, your relationships. And as we get to the cards where I explain what I see as life, you will probably understand this even better. I'll give more examples. Here is another example. It's not directly related maybe to what we are talking about. I still couldn't resist myself placing it into my presentation because I absolutely love it. Again, it's about sacred geometry and the high order of creation. And very often when we think about sacred geometry, you'll think of Fibonacci series and golden mean, which kind of sets the ratio or the curvature for all the spirals, for the division, for the shapes, so to say, in the material world. But I invite you to look at this as a ratio for relationship. So here is the formula to the right, if you are not sure. So A plus B is to A as A is to B. So really, if we start with one as the God, one as the source, one as the creator, that's what I mean by it. So think of this formula as if it describes the one dividing itself, creating this world, and our relationship with the one. So on a personal level, how we relate to the one will define all other of our relationships. It's kind of inbuilt in this formula of creation. And again, later, I hope I'll give more tangible real life examples to help you get this thought, get this message. One more thing, the patterns that we are talking about, the way the energy weaves this world, they are never ending. They are fractal nature, which means they're self-similar across different scales. So here we can see electrons and we can see planets in the solar system. I put the citation from Trismegistus, as above, so below, as within, so without, as the universe, so the soul. The takeaway here is somewhere, despite of, I guess, which religion we belong to, it's not about this really, we're talking about energies here. We are as well multi-dimensional fractals, fractals of it, fractals of the one. And think of yourself as this fractal of source consciousness. So somewhere inside of you, you have access to all this information, to any time and space. So it's really in your consciousness, it's really inside, because we carry the aspect of it, we carry the part of it, whatever word you'd like to use for it. I hope my message is still clear here. And why I think the energy literacy is so important. I loved giving this example when I worked at the Sacred Geometry Gallery. So it's high time to shift the perspective and become energy literate. So on the left, you see the photograph. The photograph is purely 2D, two-dimensional. It's flat. So whenever we take a piece of a photograph, it won't mean much to us and you wouldn't understand much of what was on the original picture. Let's compare that to the hologram. A piece of hologram contains information about the whole. So literally, you take it and then you can replicate the whole hologram from it. My teachers in sacred geometry used to say it's like an acorn. You know, it's an acorn, but in its potential, in its core, it's holding the whole oak tree forest in it. That's metaphorically explaining the essence of the hologram. The outdated perspective when you are too tightly attached and trapped in material world or in your mind, will look like very linear, very flat, very materialistic, attached to form, as I mentioned. It will look separate from everything else. It will be dualistic, ego-driven, and fearful because you are separate. You don't know what to expect from others. So you'll be prejudiced, defensive, and sometimes even pushing because you think you know better. It's just you, all about you. That's what I mean by ego-driven. And the energy perspective will be non-linear, or call it quantum. It's not flat anymore. It's multidimensional. It's teaching you to think beyond words, beyond shapes, beyond forms, look deeper from all angles, all aspects, as I mentioned before. It makes you feel connected and helps you to get aligned with the higher order, kind of be at the same time respectful to this higher order, and try to find your place in it. It's non-dual, it's heart-driven, it's when you are open, loving, and creative. And it's not about pushing in any form. It's about more about allowing and receiving and living in a flow. So that's a lot of information. I'll leave the presentation anyway, so you can revisit it if you'd like to explore it more, but I'd like to continue. We'll come back to it again. So here is another question to ask. If you have to manifest from the energy perspective, how would you formulate your goals? If in this case, we have to think of what we would like to experience without attachment to forms or objects or possessions or places or titles, but rather thinking of energetic signature or frequency. Just to give you an example, I used to make these lists or resolutions for every next year, and being younger mainly, and I had all kinds of things there that I want to have this, I want to have that, I want to go there, I want to be like that, but none of this was about what do I really want to experience on a deep energy level. None of this was ever about the vibration of frequency, like energetic essence of it. And when I first got to the point where I realized, oh, it's really, I have to make questions differently. I have to ask myself, what would I like to experience? How would I like to feel? Or what the vibration, what frequency do I want to be in that will, as I mentioned before, again, permeate all of my behavior, relationships, state of mind, and everything. I got really, really puzzled with the question. And it took me a while to come up with answers. I don't know what you might be thinking at this stage, but just a hint, I naturally came up with, why don't I ask to live in the highest possible vibration and do my best to tune into them? And as a consequence, I would always feel, or do my best to feel in my power, never ever being small again or feeling small, feeling disconnected, feeling this lack, separation, and limitation. I thought that was amazing. I thought, oh, that's what they talk about when they talk about heaven and earth. So that was my own kind of crazy thinking or chain of thought along these questions. I probably will invite you to continue because I think I have the cards coming next and they'll clarify a lot of things for you. So I'll touch upon the key words that sound very, very abstract, or we used to think of them in a very materialistic way, materialistic perspective. And here I'm inviting you to look at them from energy perspective, from bigger perspective of how I see them. And again, it's just me and how I see, and I'm limited, so that's how I understand them at current stage. If I have my blind spots, please excuse me. If it's speculative in some ways, again, and non-scientific, please excuse me. But I'm opening to you the veil of my inner world and how I see things. And as my teacher of transpersonal psychology used to say, we all are unique and we all perceive the world in our unique way. So if you don't open up and express it, and that's what he means by creativity or true creative process. If you're not creative, you're not expressing it, taking it out, the world will lose. The world will not get that part of you which is unique. So you can make the world richer and contribute. So I'm trying to do my best here. And you'll see beautiful illustrations from visionary artists. Probably you've recognized already, it's Alex Gray, because who else than visionary artists would display what cannot be seen with our physical senses. So life, it's this creative source energy flow at work. So like electricity running in the cable, we are like channels for this life force, for this source energy force. And we are transducers, which means we receive this energy and then transmit it further. So we have the power to readjust it or calibrate the frequencies inside of us. I want to give you, pictures are great, so they kind of will help you to grasp this idea. Plus, I want to give you an example from my life where after a holotropic session, I had a dream and I was literally dreaming and sensing myself. It's more like sensing myself as a flute. So I felt my body as being whole and as if the air or energy, air, more like it felt like flow of air through me, was traveling through me. And instead of chakras, I had these holes in the flute. And as the flow went through me, I produced some music. It was absolutely beautiful, amazing dream that I'll never forget. So in some ways, I literally could sense some flow through me or how it may work. So again, through my imagination, I think I got grasp of this idea. What do I mean by spiritual? I mean being aware and connected to this energy network or web of life, to this flow of energy. And as you become spiritual, as a consequence, you naturally will become more sensitive or more tuned or more clairvoyant. You'll better understand interconnectedness of everything, principles of life, cause and effect, call it karma, karmic effect. And then you'll better sense your role and responsibility as a conduit of this life energy within the network. It will make you more ethical and serving to others rather than egoistic. So here is another beautiful picture from Alex Gray. And yeah, it's about being aware and connected to this energy network or web of life. Love, another big word. If we look at the life force as electricity running through the cable, the electricity running will naturally create magnetic field or magnetic force. So that's how we describe it. So it creates this force that attracts things, binds them together. So it's kind of a side effect of being connected to the flow of life. The more connected you are, the more love you feel. And then again, let's think about down to earth, very common everyday situation where or events in your life when you fell in love. I bet you were attracted to people because you felt they are bubbling with this vitality, they're bubbling with life energy. There is so much life force in them in whatever form, maybe even if not in physical, then in some other form, you would sense this strong vibration, and that's what make you be attracted to them. Joy. Joy is experiencing a high level of connection with this life energy when it overflows and gives splashes. And literally, when you're depleted, it's very hard to feel joyful. It's, I mean, literally, we need to manage our energy levels. And again, later, probably I'll give you a couple of hints. Just tune into these high vibrational things that uplift us, and ignore and make sure that we don't rob ourselves of this life energy by thinking wrong thoughts, by going low in vibration. So it's where our attention goes will help us to choose and manage our energy levels. Again, there is a great parable about who will win inside of you, which wolf or which animal, the one that you feeds most. So it's always a go to stay with high vibration. And here is another beautiful slide from David Hawkins. You might have come across this one, or you might have come across plenty of other emotional scales or frequency scales related to different emotions or creative energy. So joy sits really, really high in vibration. I literally feel it like overflow, like these bubbles on top of splashing water. Another word, truth. You might equally use integrity as a synonym. So for me, it's awareness of, or being able to see the direction of the energy flow of life from bigger perspective, or this alignment with the high order of things. So beautiful picture explains it all. It's like many, many eyes, but they all are pointed into one. And from everyday perspective or our personal level, how can we understand this at a better level? It's simply that, like a piece of a puzzle, or puzzle, I mean, not just flat puzzle, but more like a hologram puzzle, holographic puzzle. Just think if there is this flow and you're part of it, and you as a piece of puzzle, you as this fractal, you find your beautiful spot right in, perfectly fitting. So you don't feel any rubbing, you don't feel any scratching, because you sit, you are, and you do what you're supposed to do. Isn't it beautiful? And truth means you do not distort this direction or flow of energy, as opposite to the lie, which will come next. So lie would be the distortion of truth, or sending individuals' life energy in the wrong direction, creating blocks and separation. And here I just want to give example again from physical world, from physiology, and invite you maybe to watch the program about practice of silence by the System of Health Management. We did it a while ago, and I was presenting the teachings from physiology as a science about life, how life organizes itself, with the doctor and my friend, Dmitry Shemenkov. So he would say it in a very, very simple way. If the nerve cells in our body would start blocking or distorting the information, the signal coming through, we wouldn't be able to move our, brain, and wouldn't let the signal get to our limb, and our limbs wouldn't lift up or bend in the right direction. So we have to remember that on a personal level, again, when we do lie, we distort this flow of energy. Here again, try to understand me right. I'm not inviting to kill everybody with the truth, hard truth. It's not about this. It's more about living in a state where you are open and you accept your faults and you admit them, and you can just go with it. You are prepared to admit where you were wrong, correct your mistakes, and move on. You just are responsible, but free, free. You don't have to hide. You don't create these blocks or walls of separation. And that's what happens when you lie. And in other words, sin, again, it's going against your own truth. And we all know it. And half of my life, I guess, I was going against myself, betraying my true nature, just trying to follow the programming, the social programming, and do what I thought was right for me to do, what I thought is attractive and cool. And so really sin is going against truth, which means going against the flow of energy of life in you, which eventually will disconnect you. It means mixing up with the high order of things. Fear. Fear, I see it as an energy block resulted from lack of connection, a side effect of being disconnected and not cooperating with the flow of life and your truth. So if you connect with this flow of life, with the source, with the one, it gives you the qualities, the property, it gives you the power, it gives you unlimited possibilities. When you disconnect, you will be fearful because you feel separate, you feel unsupported, you're no longer there. So look at rather as a block rather than, I mean, we have an instinct of survival, of course, but again, it's only because we are too attached to physical and we don't know, we can't stretch our understanding beyond death. So depression, I guess it happens when we have too many blocks, and for whatever reasons, whatever we did, we lied, we betrayed ourselves, we suppressed life energy, and we ended up being disconnected from the life network. Our individual energy flow has been blocked or resisting to cooperate with life. We have too many attachments in material world, in the world of objects and forms. We have expectation or idea of how we want things to be, and this creates already, it's a huge prejudice. We, behind our beautiful idea or picture in our mind, we can't see the real world anymore, and we try to fight with this world and impose our will on this world, say, no, I wanted my way. I wanted this way because that's the picture that I have in my mind. That's the form, the idea I'm attached to. So very often when we fight for too long, we just deplete ourselves, and as a result, we end depressed. It doesn't mean we don't want to leave, or it's just the ego in ourselves, that part that believe this part is the God, limited and separate. And this part it's a dark day for this part. It's really, we're going through the crisis. And here we come to the word crisis. And I think in Chinese, direct translation of the word will be a turning point. So it's a turning point forcing you to restore, to remove blocks or redirect your energy flow, your life energy flow, and become aligned with the bigger life flow, with the bigger truth. Another, if I'm moving too fast, excuse me, I'll leave the presentation so you can revisit it. Creation. It's a natural quality of expression of life energy flow, because life wants to express itself. So this life energy flow with love wants to bind things together, magnify, try more and more iterations and or experiences, thus growing itself, growing its own perspective. And this is a beautiful picture by Alex Gray, just showing how this energy flow of life is pouring out of the artist's eyes and heart and hand, which is making this painting. Here an example, a little story or a hint that I want to give you. It came to me as an insight one day when, think of writing or composing the music not as composing it, or thinking, making it up with yourself, but rather listening to it and facilitating its manifestation in our material realm. So I was sitting there and realized, what if I not just try to make it, but I'll just stop playing the piano and I listen what's coming out and listen to the harmonies. And this was a big revelation for me, that lots of things are made up by my mind, and they are not coming from a higher source. They are not coming, they're quite small. And when they come from a bigger source, they are much more powerful. They have another depth. It's another perspective, definitely. And it's all about not me pushing my mind and squeezing it out of my mind. It's me opening up, getting into receptive mode and listening to it. And here we come to manifestation. So it's co-creation with this life flow. It works best, of course, when you are spiritual, which, as I mentioned above, it means integrated into the energy network and aligned with the truth. So if you are this perfect piece of a puzzle, holographic puzzle, it's so much easier to manifest because you are just doing your bit of creation on your level in the physical realm, because we happen to be here, you know, trapped or not trapped, having material physical body experience. So we just help to co-create. And this again is absolutely beautiful art by Alex Gray. I think it's a good representation of manifestation. And here we are, finally reaching part 3, where I'll try to link all of it to the mind mirror and mainly to the theory of the mind mirror, how we read and understand what we see and measure with the mind mirror. I mean, though I say theory, it's implied that we also practice shifting our perspective. If you don't mind, I'll keep going and maybe all the questions will go in the end. So we'll talk about what do we see and measure with the mind mirror and awakened mind theory metaphors. So when we talk about the mind mirror, we talk about EEG that measures the electrical activity of your brain, which is represented by various frequencies. We call them brain waves. We divide them into categories of different frequencies. So the highest would be gamma, and then there will be beta, and then there will be alpha, and then there will be theta and delta. So they just measure this electrical activity. And here, takeaway for us is when we talk about brain waves, we imply the flow of energy, right, through our brain, and we imply frequency. So here we kind of start connecting what I was talking before with the mind mirror. And then a hint, at least that's how I see the brain. Brain is our organ, physical organ, but I think it's definitely registering instrument for the whole body energy field. Whatever is happening with you will be detected and registered by your brain. And then if we talk about the mind mirror, it will be picked up and measured in the form of brain waves, or to be precise, brainwave patterns by the mind mirror. Here we go. So here I illustrated in a very simple way, and again using the metaphor of iceberg, of how we see the map of consciousness, how we associate different categories of brainwaves with levels of mind, and how we see it, right, with the mind mirror. So for those who are absolutely new to us, I want to show you this colorful image to the left where you can see how we see electrical activity with the mind mirror. You see left and right hemisphere. This would be left, this would be right. You will see frequencies here. So it means we start with very high frequencies of beta, and they're the fastest, and we associate beta with conscious mind. And beta is our normal, like is dominant in our normal waking state. And beta is the one responsible for our survival and orientation in the physical world, and is responsible for our verbalization, for our language, for the way we speak, for the way we memorize. We need beta for decision making. We need beta to be conscious of things, aware of things, and record them in our memory. So we here to the right see beta level as the tip of that iceberg, something that we all can obviously see. If we slow down a bit, we'll go to this green bands of alpha, and we associate alpha with a bridge or gateway. And here to the right, it's again metaphorically related to this water level. So it's division between what we can see above the water and what we can't see, what's below, what's hidden. So alpha is this bridge that separates our conscious mind of beta from our subconscious mind of theta. So if we slow down even more, and alpha is our daydreaming state, or as you're relaxing, as you're actively sensualizing, involving your senses, all of this amplifies alpha. So alpha can be associated with an open state, receptive state as well. So we slow down to theta. Theta represents subconscious mind. Here again to the left in the mind mirror, we see it in blue. And it's this deeper layer of iceberg. It's our library of stuff, all our programs, pressed emotions, our creativity, deeper wisdom. And I'll talk about metaphors related to each of the brainwave categories later. And then the slowest that we see in purple are delta brainwaves that we associate with unconscious mind or doors to universal consciousness. So it's somewhere very, very, very deep and very slow compared to very fast beta brainwaves. So again, takeaway for us about the mind mirror is that mind mirror allows us to see and measure the energy flow. We can see brainwaves here, different brainwave categories, as lenses of our perception, which define our perspective. It's really about which one is dominant or how they relate to each other. So if they all work at the same time and present at the same time, how harmonious is our orchestra or symphony of brainwaves that we are playing? Who is playing the solo? Are other categories listening? Is it like full of integrity, or is it cacophonic and out of order? So that's what is important. And let's keep going. I won't read full definition. I'd rather leave it in the presentation, and those who are not very well acquainted with our patterns, they may delve into it later. So here is an ordinary pattern. And as you can see, beta will be dominant in the ordinary pattern. So this is what probably most of us will show with eyes open when we are talking, thinking usual thoughts, engaged in everyday activities, working. So beta here is dominant, but as you can see, kind of other levels, other categories, alpha, theta, delta, they're very, very narrow. Maybe there is some activity in delta still, but alpha and theta, they're definitely blocked. They're very narrow. There's hardly any flow in there. So when we look at this pattern, we see beta ruling, and beta brainwaves here, they stand as a metaphor of ego trapped in the material world trap. That's when our perspective is limited, right? That's our conscious mind. And let me remind you again from psychology that mind only operates from what it knows, from its own past experience. Mind is quite limited in what it can understand and imagine about life. We always have to remember life and opportunities and universe is much more abundant and friendly and flexible and open than what our mind might think of if we had negative past experience. Mind will hold mainly lots of thoughts and lots of words and lots of pictures about how you would like to see things, lots of expectations. So by all of this, I mean, I'm in this ego mind. So to create and connect with the bigger flow, with the source of life, with this high energy source, you have to let go. You have to go beyond your mind, beyond known material, beyond analytical. Again, my teacher of transpersonal psychology would say you have to become crazy. Yes, because you have to start opening the door to what you do not know, for something that lies beyond. So it's always good to stay a little bit crazy, because that means your door is open and it gives you more flexibility and more fresh air and more creativity and ideas of what can happen. So I even made a joke here, you have to let this E go, because we are talking about ego. But at the same time, let's remember we still need beta, being in this physical world and survive in this physical world, orientate ourselves, conceptualize, be able to use words and talk and language. So beta simply must find its place in the hierarchy or higher order of things. So here we go. This is the awakened mind pattern, and this is what we talk about when we are doing the awakened mind training. So what you see here is that you actually have alpha open and theta open. There is no longer bottleneck there. Alpha stands as a metaphor gateway for slower frequencies, and which implies higher states. In awakened mind pattern, alpha opens the perspective. Thus, as I just talked before, it opens the door for a bigger world, for what your mind may not know or be able even to imagine. And what's key here as well is that it's no longer just one beta, it's more like all the brainwave categories are working. So you have access or energy running across more frequencies than before than in ordinary state. So again, for those who may not be well acquainted, I'm just returning back, but I'll repeat it again later. And just to remind, for those who are the first ones here, Max Cade found this awakened mind pattern. And he was saying this is a step that takes you beyond meditation and helps you to awaken in your everyday life. It's more like lucid awareness of meditation coexistent with thought processes. So it's basically the state that reveals all brainwave categories. Each of them relate to each other at a certain proportion. Beta 1, alpha 2, theta 1.6, and delta 1. So the key is they sit according to a certain hierarchy or in harmony, and we have access to all frequencies. That's the key message here. And about alpha, here is alpha in the ordinary state, and we can see it blocked. So it's like a door blocked, and here alpha is open. So as you open alpha, it's like you can see, oh, there is a whole world behind these doors. You thought it was locked, it was closed, but there is a whole door. And another good metaphor that I absolutely loved is just for a second, imagine that there is no sky anymore. That wherever you go, you just have the ceiling above your head. For me, it almost, this just idea and thinking about it, it's causing a headache. And I feel terrible. I need this sky. I need this perspective. I need this vastness and openness above my head. And this is another metaphor for alpha. As you move from blocked alpha in ordinary state to open alpha in awakened mind, your mind is like that bird in a cage, trapped in its own thoughts and can't see in bigger perspective. As soon as you let the bird fly, and here is beautiful eagle, if I'm not mistaken, flying high above the mountains, oh, definitely your perspective will shift and you'll see and understand much more, and you'll see how things are connected because you're simply above them, so you can see all these connections below. And then if we amplify awakened mind even more, so we open all bottlenecks and make it look more balanced. You can see balanced shape now on the screen, balanced pattern here. You can see left and right hemisphere and shape of a circle. We call it evolved mind. So all categories are nicely balanced and aligned in a circle. And of course, here we can see theta really open to almost maximum. It's really big, much bigger than we saw it before in Awakened Mind. So theta would stand as a metaphor in some way for heart, or your eternal soul, or energetic core self, or higher self. Let me tell you that whenever we spoke about landmarks, whenever I did sensualization exercises with my clients or myself, whenever we talk about things that people love, even if this is just ice cream or strawberries or smelling roses or chocolate, I can see theta opening every single time. It's almost like a lie detector, or just detector telling me and helping me to read the thoughts. I know that person, okay, oh, I can see, yeah, sure, loves ice cream, yeah, loves coffee, yeah. And this is one thing. So whenever you think about things that you enjoy and love, thinking about children, thinking about pets very often opens theta. And at the same time, thinking about warmth in any form, warmth, social warmth, physical warmth, warmth of the sun. And sun is a great symbol, like ancient symbol for the creator as well, for the source of life. So it opens theta. It's a very powerful thing. And obviously, remembering that we cannot access theta without having alpha open, without having bridge open. So to be precise, the condition for opening the heart will be having both open, alpha and theta, because otherwise you can't access theta. And alpha theta to me was kind of a metaphor for your own energetic core self, in a way that I had psychic medium girl who started losing the plot because she's overly sensitive and peaking too much stress, too lots of brain trauma as well. And she identified that when she is opening alpha and connect, like opening theta, when we go deeper, she starts sensing herself more. It's like we formulated it in a way that she's losing the tuning with herself. She's tuned to everybody else around her, everything and everybody, but she's losing herself, where she is, where her truth is, where it's like she literally, it's much worse than ego dying. It's much worse than physical being. It's like your essential core. She's losing her essential core. So as soon as she started reconnecting with that core, the anxiety and fear reduced and life started shaping itself back. So that's a good example. Again, theta is a good metaphor for heart or eternal soul and energetic core self and higher self. And of course, when you go there into your heart, your perspective is drastically different from what you can see in ordinary state of just your beta mind. So evolved mind, in this case, the circular pattern, circular shape that we see with the mind mirror, is a great metaphor for oneness or unity or connection to the source or connection to the life energies I described it. This is when you are in your power, because it's no longer just your power, it's really the bigger source power. And it makes you also fully present. You are here now, and you can connect with everything through this state. You are in your highest perspective. Whoever watched my webinar on mediums brainwaves might remember that mediums claim this to be the sweet spot. Joe Dispenza may call it sweet spot, the power of now, something like that. Natural mediums live in that state. They connect with other people's through this state. This is the symbol of connection, like line established, the connection is on, and you may start receiving information from anybody because you are one. You're no longer separate from that person. You can connect and read from whatever is written and recorded in his or her energy field. This is the biggest speculation probably of today's. Again, some of you may have seen it before. So when we look at this circular shape, again, we see it as flat. But whoever watched and had some experience with the mind mirror will know that the delta in the bottom, the purple brainwave category, slowest ones in the bottom, somehow communicate either with beta on top or with gamma on top. To me, it always felt like, though our patterns are flat, they should be seen more like dimensional flow of a toroidal field. And here is just representation of this flow that we see around everything in life. That's the nature, like how nature shapes itself. And we'll see it about around planets, around people. And this cuboctahedron, this geometrical shape kind of represents just the schematic of this field. And to be precise, what you can see that the energy here is flowing up and down simultaneously, plus there is this core where all energy lines meet. Alpha theta seems to be a metaphor for this point, this equilibrium, where we find the point, how they describe it, for happenings or non-happenings. It is the empty theater and empty circus and empty universe ready to accommodate any act and any audience. So that was Buckminster Fuller. And I believe, no surprise, alpha theta crossovers are associated. What do I mean by crossovers? It's when bands of theta are getting bigger than bands of alpha. And we remember that theta in our theory represents subconscious mind, which means that the information from subconscious mind, what was not conscious, crosses the border, goes through alpha gateway, alpha bridge, goes up into our conscious mind. So whenever unconscious become conscious, this is when the magic happens. This is when the healing occurs. This is when you receive insights. This is when true creativity happens. This is the transcendence in shamanic experiences, if you like. This will be reactions in clinical alpha theta neurotherapy when eventually you are able to achieve this tuning to your inner core self and let the information come up. So, of course, all kinds of information may come up, and if you are not very experienced in opening up after blockages, after ordinary state, what happens first? All the skeletons jump out of your subconscious. So it may be quite scary, and very often I hear people, like recently I met a guy who said he's been doing some Buddhist practices, lots of meditation, and he said, I started revisiting or reliving traumatic situations from his childhood again and again and again. So literally he's opening up this gateway, and then he needs to release or heal or integrate this material, suppressed material, on another level. So it's really suppressed energy as well, so that you have to release into the flow. Okay, and here is one more pattern that we don't see that often, where you can slow down even deeper, because we were talking about slowing. So here we see delta is dominant. And in ordinary case, non-meditators, non-mediums, non-psychics will show this pattern when they are in their REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep. They're dreaming. They are seeing dreams. We call it channeling pattern, and I've seen it many times with mediums when they are in their process, when they're trying to connect, when they're searching. So here in channeling pattern, delta is a doorway to universal consciousness and source energy. So metaphorically, I can also say, to me, it's like a net that you throw out, the broaden net, and you're fishing for either a spirit to connect in case of medium, or you are tuning in and finding the right Akashic Records page or the right file in the cosmic internet. So this is this scanning mode, scanning and tuning mode, active scanning, active tuning mode with your delta. Channeling pattern clearly shows psychics and healers, they do not run it out of their minds, out of their beta, they channel it through slowing down or shifting to high frequencies. Slowing down in our brainwaves would imply we are getting higher in our frequencies. And again, delta may be just our instinct, radar, survival, or when used professionally, ethically, properly, it may be our bigger radar or bigger antenna to connect with the universe, to connect with the bigger world. So here I summarized the dynamics of it. So we started with the ordinary pattern where we were just in our beta, trapped, because alpha is no longer allowing for enough flow of information or energy to subconscious or unconscious levels. So we are just trapped in our conscious material minds. And you can perfectly associate this pattern with outdated perspective. It's that perspective that I listed before: flat, linear, disconnected, separated, limited, fearful, etc. So when we train awakened mind, we literally train to zoom out and slow down and go to high perspective, because what we can see, we open the bridge, we go into theta, and we might have some delta going. And then if you amplify awakened mind on every level, on every frequency even more, we go to literally the most balanced and perfect shape ever existed, which is a sphere. We go into this circle of evolved mind pattern of oneness and unity, where you are fully and totally here. You will open the flow, you allow for the flow. You go into receptive mode, and you are able to receive and acknowledge messages from your subconscious theta or from a bigger universe. And here you basically embrace it all in synchrony and harmony and perfectly tuned. So you can say this awakened mind and evolved mind, they would represent what I would call energy perspective. And one more thing I found interesting, and again, I may speculate because I couldn't find the exact source of where I discovered this information. So we all know that brain waves, we develop them as we grow. So in a very young age, when we are mainly babies and very young toddlers, first 2 years, we primarily run on delta brain waves. And yeah, babies are asleep. Delta will also be a symbol of deep sleep. Theta will be dominant from 2 to 6 years old, and that's where psychologists would say you form your character. That's where we are most suggestive, or how to say it, we receive everything without judgment, so whatever adults say we believe is true. And then alpha will be dominant from 6 to 12, and we develop beta from 12 plus when we start like abstract thinking and conceptualizing. It's like more analytical. What I was trying to show here is that when we talk about awakened mind, we talk about all brainwave categories involved, and it's more like one doesn't cancel another. We want to be connected to the universe in delta, and that's how babies come, they are connected to our hearts in theta. We want to be playful and creative, implying also in our body, because we sense this physical world with our 5 senses, located in our body, and that's alpha. And we need clear minds to externalize and materialize high wisdom in everyday earthly life, and that's where we need beta. And somewhere, I'm not sure if it was Ken Wilber and his integral psychology or elsewhere, but I was absolutely amazed when I came across the same diagram related to how we grow. And I never just thought of these things from this perspective where, like, we are children first, and we are teenagers, and then we are adolescents, and then we are adults. But it's really when we move from one level to another, they're more like Russian dolls. We still keep these layers, or like an onion. We keep these layers and layers of experience inside of us. We shouldn't cancel it. We should stay connected to these levels and layers of existence. We still have a child inside. To the moment we die, there is still a little child there. It just means how much we suppress that level or that layer or that of our existence inside of us. So they're more like embedded one inside of the other. And I thought maybe with brainwaves, it's kind of similar. Oh, we need all, and we embrace them all, and they're more like Russian dolls, or in some way they're integrated all together. We need them all. One doesn't cancel the other. And now I come to last part that probably some of you are most interested in. It's exactly how can I describe my energy reading, and how can I maybe help you improve or develop your reading skills. I'll try to give as many examples as I can here. I took this picture from the previous presentation about signs of spiritual awakening, where I was talking about awakening to the energy and energy reading. So it's 100% about shifting, changing normal perspective. To me, it feels like I'm looking or diving in below the surface of things. So I look beyond surface, I look beyond things. If I'm in an everyday situation, I can no longer sustain eye contact. I have to look away. It feels like I open my introspective vision. I don't have any inner screen or special place. I just have to divert my attention away from external world, even though I may keep my eyes open. So in our case, it's often associated with, that's how it feels when you open alpha. You connect with your inner world, but you may not lose the connection with the outer world. That's also part of awakened mind training. We keep our attention in both worlds at once, not losing. Then it's a process of a subtle tuning. So the best example would be like dogs. They would sniff and explore the world by smelling it. I'm trying to sense how it feels like. So whatever I'm trying to read, figuring out what's the right thing to do, why this is happening, I'm just tuning, and I'm like a lolly. I'm sucking this situation from all possible angles, trying to sense how it feels like. And it usually comes as a feeling or sensation in the body, whether it's nice and I feel the expansion and muscles relaxing, or it's uplifting. I feel like this incoming energy flow. For example, if I think, is this my true desire? Do I really want it? Is this the right thing for me to do? If it's the right thing to do, I instantly will feel more flow of energy coming in. I feel this expansion, not contraction inside my body. So I feel, oh yeah, that feels like it's uplifting. Oh, it makes me feel great. It's actually raising my mood, even if I felt low. So I think this is the best way to describe it. It's like sensing it from all possible angles and checking in what's with my energy. Again, I have to refer to energy. That's my way of reading world and seeing this world. It comes as a sensation in the body, and often I also see the picture. So as soon as I see the picture, to me, it's like, okay, I got it. And then I can start putting it into words and describe or tell someone what I just received. So it always comes as knowing. I rarely have any doubts or judgment about it. So it comes unconditional. It just comes the way it is. And it feels like, oh, this is the truth. I don't have to argue. No point to argue. It comes as knowing. So again, it's more a reference to theta when it comes from the inner, deeper or higher self. It often comes spontaneously if I'm in meditation or I'm doing some monotonous course. And always when my mind is not preoccupied with things. So my mind is kind of a bit idle or in receptive mode when I'm cleaning, or I could be swimming, doing laps, or just walking and enjoying the nature, beautiful landscapes. So this is when I can just start receiving something spontaneously. And very often I would feel urge or some energy like building up, that I have something to say. There is something in there, this message to share. It feels like you have an email in your mailbox that needs to be opened on the energy level. It's like energetic download. There is a zip file inside of me. I have to open it, and then I start scanning it and reading it in the way I just described. So this is just something that how I feel it, and then what may help you. Again, just a summary. Most of the things you might already know, but again, I'll make references to the mind mirror and give some examples. So first of all, it's important to know it's possible and it's available to everyone. We all have it. But our conscious mind, beta, is usually preoccupied by itself, making it impossible to go into receptive mode. So solution always will be quieten your mind and go beyond your analytical mind and thoughts. Be receptive to inner whisper. When the message does come in, it is often devalued and ignored because it's not as loud as our usual inner voice. It often comes as whisper, as fast as a falling star, since it's coming from different frequencies. So it's coming from theta and delta. Then relaxation, grounding, and aligning meditation is a good way to start, where you go into your heart and connect with the earth and the sun. So brainwave wise, I'll see it as opening alpha theta. Or instead of meditation, it can be enjoyable whole body or any uplifting activity. So mediums will use music and singing. Some would prefer dancing. Some will have swimming, doing any kind of sports. This is when you kind of relax, go into receptive mode, and you connect with yourself, your power. You go into this state of oneness. Then practice of tuning. It's, I don't know whether it's probably connected with empathy as well. But to me, it's more like setting a laser focus, which implies you have good mastery over your attention and you connect with the energetic frequency or energetic essence of person, situation, etc. And then you wait and allow for things to come up in any form, which could be coming through different channel. Just it can come as sensation, as a picture, as a thought, as in words, in any form, and you don't have any like expectation or prejudice of what and how it may come up. Which is a good thing to do, is live your truth and do not betray it, because your vision will naturally become clearer and you'll sense more about yourself and other people. It's like making sure that you, if you're a musical instrument operating through resonance, you are tuned. You are tuned. If you are not out of tune, you'll be able to see disharmony in others, or you'll be sensible to what's going on around you more. And what is also important, you have a good range of how many frequencies you have, or like in like musical words, it's like your voice, how many frequencies you can reach. But we're talking about perception. So train yourself to discern the subtleties in any form, be it these feelings, sensations in your body, flavors, colors, shades, half tones, like, and in any form you can develop this sensitivity to subtleties. It will help to tune in and make yourself more receptive. And then this is something that probably you may not know, but it's a great thing to know what helped me. I call it amplifiers. So anything that makes your soul sing and opens your heart helps. So, and remember I said children, young children, they live in theta, 2 to 6 years old. They live in theta, 0 to 2, they live in delta. And they work as amplifiers. I bet because, say, my son, he's quite young, I felt very tuned in early morning hours with him when he was asleep. I felt like he's my amplifier. I could receive messages easily just lying in bed next to him. pets, they always open your heart because we love them unconditionally. They love us unconditionally. So they kind of help us to open our hearts and tune into theta. Music for others, anything that opens your heart and makes your soul sing. Then people, I found in people who are already tuned, often they are psychic or healers, or sometimes someone who simply listens to you attentively with an open heart will become an amplifier for you as well. They simply just give you energy, and they, through them sincerely participating in your situation, being present, they help you to connect with that magic equilibrium point where you receive, where magic happens, healing happens, where insights come through. And I noticed that in company of some friends, despite of whatever we were talking about, I could easily receive some insight or messages about myself or what I should do. It was absolutely amazing. Just walking on the beach, talking about one thing, even like unrelated, I suddenly start receiving insights. So I love people who are amplifiers. Then high energy places. Sacred places are very often high energy places. Sometimes even churches could be high energy places too. But here is one thing: be mindful while going there, have respect to the place, and never go without a clear intention. Otherwise, it may stir some subconscious sludge. It's absolutely true. It happened to me when I was in early days, when I was just exploring how I sense, how I read. I was walking around Kiev, which is the capital of the Ukraine, and a beautiful, energetic place with lots of high energy places. I was just sensing different energies here and there. And even in a big city, in a crazy life that we live, in a park, you may find beautiful oases. We have this energetic oases, if I can say so, inside a big city, where you'll be surprised why this particular restaurant is so popular, why there is this special atmosphere here. And just to describe it, it's like it's the atmosphere. That's how you'll sense it in an ordinary everyday life. So there will be this oases of very beautiful energy here and there. If you're able to listen, they simply will make you feel better. If again, you're not carrying any stuff to be released, because otherwise it just may come up and cause some trouble. Channel books, I find them dimensional. I find they're not just delivering words or stories, they're more delivering messages behind stories. They're energetically charged, that's how I call it. And you may be reading two stories at the same time. One is the author's story, and the other is of your maybe past life story or other dimensional reality memories that will be awakening inside of you. That's how it happened for me. You may be seeing and remembering something you otherwise would not be able to even dream of. And that's true as well, because they stretch my idea of life and this reality, or what can be, what is possible. Your consciousness will be ignited by what might be possible and by extraordinary perspective. And then any ancient teachings that pay attention to the subtle side of our nature, and they will introduce a new terminology and a system of knowledge that will help to understand interconnections more and operate on that level. Mainly, this is found in Eastern traditions, in Buddhism, in yoga. I found lots in Vedas. They bring light on how things operate on the subtle level. And then, of course, ecstatic shamanic experiences, initiations, may lead you to cracking your reality wide open to bigger perspective of the world around you. For me, it was holotropic breath and the template ceremonies. So this will be almost the end. 3 more cards and we are finished. So meditation. For some, it can be a prayer as well. I see it a process of tuning to restore, to reconnect with the life energy flow and shift the perspective to manifest, to create. And here, interestingly, the word mood in Russian language literally means tuning. So it's up to us really what we should choose to tune into. And I guess when you're in a bad mood, it simply means you are out of tune. Then imagination, it's the mode of operation helping us to grasp the intangible world or work on the energy level. And here I want to point out, we do not just imagining, appealing to our vision. It always comes on many levels with all sensory channels. We sensualize. So to be precise, this is not imagination, this is sensualization. Then attention is that magic wand or that vector that directs the flow of our life energy. So I think magic wand is the best word, because we literally just point at this direction, we focus on it, and the life energy flows in that direction. And that's a way for us to remember how to stay tuned. We point it at high frequencies, we point it in the right direction. And here is the last question to ask. Remembering that tuning takes you to the desirable frequency, the essential level of what you want to experience, what would you be tuning into every moment of your life? What would your life would be like if you were totally mindful of tuning? So here is the end. And now I'm open for your questions. Sorry for overload, that was lots.
I didn't think it was an overload at all, Oksana. I thought it was incredibly well integrated and easy to understand. You went high, you came back down to earth. You just did an incredibly beautiful job of it. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. So I just want to hear feedback in any form. And if you can answer the question, what would you be tuning into, or how would you be manifesting next if you had any bright thoughts and ideas? Because as I said, whenever I kind of posed this question to myself, I got puzzled. Like, I never thought of what I would like to experience on the essential energy level. Never, ever. It's always go here, do this, do that. It's trapped in words, forms, shapes, objects, possessions, titles. No, what do I really want to feel like? And what should I tune to? Which means, where should my attention go? To keep me high, to keep me connected.
I can give you some feedback that Stephanie DuPont wrote. Thank you for defining paths to expanding perspectives. Nice foundation. Your definition of energy guided by higher orders, symbolized by the flower of life, is a beautifully perfect metaphor for familiar horizontal flow. Your presentation of the golden mean, fractals, holograms versus photographs all broaden my understanding of how to experience sacred geometry. The map of consciousness is a perfect hint. Now I will aim for the brilliant orange of joy and even higher peace. I can now see the energy of truth, love, lies, sin, fear, depression, crises, creation. Beautifully, excuse me, and artistically balanced, your visual aids enhance my learning. I appreciate your energy frequency, perspective relative to mind mirror pattern identification, with emphasis on evolved mind pattern characteristics like alpha, theta, and age dynamics. I'm eager to improve my energy reading skills. You are brave to reveal your creative process at a psycho-spiritual level. Thanks for all your tips and exemplary presentation on how to be. This from a clinical psychologist who is just a quite brilliant woman who is training to be a mind mirror practitioner.
Wow, thank you so much. That was brilliant. Seriously, that was brilliant. I can tell you that this program I've been brewing for years. I don't know, it just came up and I told Judith, it kept returning to me, and I even sat down twice. Literally, it almost felt like channeling. I sat down twice to write it down because it wouldn't leave my mind. It was just coming back and insisting, kind of, here I am, take me in. And I was, okay, I'll put it down on paper first, and then I see whenever opportunity comes up and I feel like sharing. And to the last moment, I felt like I never, ever opened that far, showing the kitchen of my inner world, never, ever. But maybe it's the time to open up and let others learn. If they can learn anything from my experience and my knowledge, you're welcome. And Judith, one more thing I wanted to say. We haven't discussed it, but again, I've been brewing it for ages. So I am about to launch an online meditation course where I invite you to try my favorite meditations that helped me to sense things that I thought I'd never be able to sense. I thought sensing chakras, you have to be so advanced. It's not about me, it's impossible. But then doing certain meditations, I started sensing them. I could tell straight away whether that chakra was open or closed and how bad it was before. And I could feel it vibrating after. Aligning, perfect. I had my favorite set that I think they're like pearls. I was guided to them over the years. I tried them all. I have my, again, favorite set when I feel terrible, out of tune on every level, in physical, mental, every possible level. I sit down, I do them, and I know I can do miracles to myself. I'm not sure about others. I'm not that great healer, though I was told I can be heal if I choose to. I definitely can help myself. And it's like, that's what I think everybody needs these days in whatever form. There is so much craziness going around. So it's very good to stay tuned, to stay healthy in all ways and expanded. So whoever is interested, you can send me just one line. I'm interested, and whenever I'm ready, I'll share the program description with you. So literally it will be kind of continuation of this. I'll tell more stories about more synchronicities and magic happening in my life. Plus invite you to try all of these meditations with me, plus doing some mind mirror analysis with the portal, which is important for those who are learning to use mind mirror and using the portal. We'll analyze together, so you'll kind of have hands-on training on mind mirror portal and analysis as well.
Brilliant, brilliant. Yes, please do let us know. And, you know, maybe when you edit this webinar program and send it out to people, you could mention your program.
Okay, yeah, I will.
Yeah.
I will, because it's beautiful. It's something that, as I said, it still amazes me how this meditation came into my life and what they do and what memories they awaken. I thought this is far beyond. No, I can't do it. I'm a normal person.
Questions, comments, thoughts?
I found it extraordinary. Thank you so much, Oxana. I could really feel a broadening, you know, rather than identified with my small egoic little physical world. I really broadened out and got a sense of being bigger. So thank you. It was great. Love it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, Oxana.
Hello. Who's speaking?
Grace. This is Grace.
Okay, yeah, I can't see you though.
No, you can't, but I hope my voice conveys how much I've been touched, not just by the material that you've presented that I've so appreciated and learned from, but you yourself, and the fact that you were willing to open and share with us that magic that's inside. I really have been so touched by you, and I thank you for that. And I want to also mention, I love your magic wand. So now I really have something fun to go out and play with, my magic wand. Where is my attention right now? You know, it's got that star on the end of it that twinkles. And what I am going to tune into is our home, Earth, and how beautiful it looks all the time. And I'm going to have my little magic wand out there with the animals and the trees and the sky and the clouds and the water and the mountains. I'm just so happy that you've given me such a great gift. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for your kind words. As I said, I was so anxious. I was like, should I open up that much? You feel vulnerable when you have to disclose all of that. And as I said, very often when you talk about subtle things, I mean, the feedback could be just, oh, another crazy person. Oh yeah, another one, another one of these.
Well, there's getting to be more and more of us.
There's nothing wrong. I mean, I can only say that who is truly crazy would never admit it. I'm happy to be a little bit and keep stretching further as long as I'm like responsible and adequate and aligned. I'm fine.
Yeah, agreed.
You did a beautiful, beautiful job, Oxana. We are deeply, deeply grateful. And I'm sure all attuning to a higher state right now, and look forward to the edited webinar and to more from you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. It's my pleasure to share with you.